Hi there, my name is Carol Gordon. I'm the project manager for the CataList project at BookNet. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar on essential tools for libraries. So our goal today is we want to give you a little bit of orientation about what CataList is, what titles you can find there, and some of the tools that you can use that might benefit you in your day-to-day, just looking for titles for patrons, looking to fill in gaps in your collections, or forthcoming titles for acquisitions. And some other things that you can find in CataList, like samples, excerpts, the ability to request ARCs from publishers, and also a little bit about some of the library programs like Lone Stars that are running on the CataList platform. So let's get started. I am going to actually present from CataList for most of this directly, so we'll look at the live site. Give me 1 second, and I'm just going to switch over to that view. So if you have a CataList account already, you can come and log in. If you don't have an account, you can register for one there or sign up directly from the login screen. CataList accounts are free for library users, library staff. So all we need to know is just which library that you're associated with so that we can set you up properly in the account. It also, for things like ARC requests and voting for Lone Stars, we do need to validate sort of which library you're with. So if you sign up with a work email, we can validate that just from your email address. Otherwise, we will contact the account manager, whoever's managing your library account, to make sure that it's okay to add you to their account. But totally free. We usually set you up within 24 business hours from your request, so to get you access to all of the features. If you just want to browse around, you don't need a login. You can just browse what's publicly available, but there's a lot more content available if you're logged in. So it is a real benefit to do that. So I am going to log in to CataList, and I'll give you a little bit of an overview here of our homepage. So the way that CataList is set up is the publishers sign up to post their catalogs. So if you're looking for a particular publisher, perhaps, Disney Press, you'll actually be able to find that they're listed under the Hachette book group. Groundwood, for example, is another, so listed under the House of Anansi Press. So each of these publishers, if I click through, is posting their seasonal catalogs. Many of them will also do monthly catalogs. Some will do some custom lists. For example, they've cataloged together their Jump at Home series, the 50th anniversary series, some Spanish interest resources, Indigenous peoples and resources. So those are some useful things to know if you're looking for specific publishers. If you're looking cross-publisher, there are lots of ways to just explore all of the titles that are listed in CataList. So first off, drop-ins. We do track drop-ins, so titles that are late additions to current season. If you wanted to see, for example, what titles were dropped in late by publishers on a month-by-month basis, what's coming this month, next month, up to November, so 6 months in the future, you can easily run those reports. Just a single click to choose a month, click go. So we can actually see there's 129 of those titles that are dropped in late to a publisher's list and are releasing in this month. So if you're doing acquisitions, that's a useful tool to see what might have been missed when you were looking at publisher lists previously. So this is actually returning in our search results page. We're going to talk a little bit more about search in a moment. Releasing this week. So this is all new releases. So this is just, we've got sort of a random cycle that comes through some of the titles are coming this week. Again, if you want the full reports, you can go month by month for the current month and 6 months in the future. Choose a month and click go, and it will return in those same search results. The most recent catalogs to be posted, you can also see. You can browse those below. Let's jump into our So for search, we are indexing all of the common bibliographic data elements: title, author, publisher, series, subject, etc. The other thing that we are also indexing is publisher keywords. So sometimes that will give you, if you're looking for something that's topical, sometimes that will give you a better result. So I'm just going to look for books on the Arctic. So I'm just going to use that as my keyword to launch into the search. And so our search is cross-publisher. So you'll get returned titles from any publisher that have matching content. So our options, we've got 574 titles. We are pulling back everything that comes up. So if you're just looking for things that are active, you can limit in your publishing status. Just a quick word about how the data that we filter on. Data in CataList is all generated from publisher Onyx files. Onyx is the data trading standard for the book trade in Canada. So that is what publishers, libraries are typically more familiar with MARC as their data trading standard. There is a translation between Onyx and MARC, but there are some things where the codes that are available in Onyx are very much that's what we're using to populate these filters. So our publishing status is one of those items. It will, so you can actually see what titles are out of print, unknown, canceled, remaindered. So you can get data on those titles if you're looking up older titles to perhaps see if it's still available. You'll actually be able to get the data on those titles, even if it is, canceled or, out of print now. So if you're just looking for active titles, that's something that you can easily do. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the pretty straightforward filters. For example, publication date is pretty straightforward. We'll just show you maybe. We tend to get a lot of forthcoming when we're looking at titles that are way in the future. You can actually limit this down. Let's say you want just 2021. So clicking on the date here will pop up that option. So you don't need to scroll through everyone and then choose your date. Clear that out. Actually, I can just clear all filters if I want to do that. My audience code. Audience is another one of those Onyx fields that CataList uses. CataList uses to allow you to sort of, instead of going through all the juvenile subjects where you can just choose just juvenile and just young adult and limit that way. The other thing that's really useful here is if you're looking for things that are more of a scholarly bent, you can look at the higher ed and the professional scholarly. So that will allows you to filter the audience that the books are written for. I'm going to clear that one out as well. Actually, I'm going to keep publishing status active because I think that's a more useful thing to look at right now. Subject. CataList right now is using the BISAC subject codes. There's a new up-and-coming subject code scheme for Canada. It's actually an international subject code scheme called FEMA. So if you are searching for a term that is included in a FEMA subject code, we will pick up the book and return it in your search results based on that keyword match. But when you're filtering by subject, we are currently using the BISAC subject code list because that is the one that most publishers, pretty well all publishers in North America support. But we are seeing more growth in support of the FEMA code, so we may have more subject offerings in the future. For now, you can, for example, drill down into the lower levels of BISAC. So if you want to look specifically at Arctic animals, you can dig into nature and then drill down into the animals group to get that specific subset. We'll clear those guys. Price range, very straightforward. It's a simple slider. I won't go into that. The next two are really useful though, and this is something that's well supported in the data is Canadian authorship. So if I'm looking at Canadian authors, by and large, most of the publishers in Canada will support indicating their Canadian authors. There is a new, as we're moving towards an ONIX, the next level of ONIX implementation in the trade side with publishers, there are additional levels of provincial data that publishers can supply. We are expecting to see support for publisher supplying province data for authors. We're expecting to see that jump pretty significantly in the next year. So we're starting to see it now. The Canadian level, the national level indicator is very well supported in the data. As you can see, I've only got a handful of titles that are where the province is indicated for the contributors. But it's going to be a very useful thing. Encourage your publisher contacts to support this data point. I think it's going to be something that's really useful for a library so that you can find your local authors, you can find authors that are local to the region that you're researching, etc. So let's just leave that at Canadian authors for now. The second part of that is sort of geographically relevant content is the region data. So there are two ways that publishers can supply this, both in the BISAC code list and the FEMA list. So again, it's something that we're hoping to see a lot more of. We're definitely promoting it from the standards side. BookNet as a whole has a role in standards development and support for the Canadian publishers. So this is something, again, that we are really promoting and really trying to get publishers to get behind supplying. So contributor location, of course, is where your contributor is from, and the geographical region is the topic of the book or subject matter of the book or setting of the book. So this actually gives you quite a lot of flexibility to dig into those regions a little bit more. As you can see, I've got two listings here. One is the ebook and one is the paperback, particularly for the Canadian publishers. They're well represented for ebook data here. So if that's something that is of interest, you can actually, if you want to specifically look at ebooks to see what's available, you can drill down into the ebook format. These are multi-select, so you can be looking at multiple things at the same time if you are looking for ebook and audio, or if you're looking just for audio, you'll be able to filter those down. So I'll clear that filter. I will clear this one too, because I want to have a little bit more content available for the next two items. Cataloged by and Canadian distributor. So these two they're sort of related. Cataloged by, when we looked at the homepage, you'll recall we saw that publishers are listing their catalogs. So this cataloged by is related to which publishers are listing the titles. So for example, the Disney Press titles will be cataloged by Hachette Book Group, and Groundwood titles are cataloged under House of Anansi Press. But what this does is lets you limit, for example, to Publishers Group Canada. If you're working with a rep, for example, on some specific tasks, then you can actually look at their particular titles. If there's a specific publisher that produces work that you find interesting, or that personally, or that produces well-researched books for your collection, you can also search that way. Oh, we've skipped language, but language is another useful one. So if you're looking specifically for French books, we actually have two in a note here. So we are starting to see some multilingual books, some particularly in the indigenous languages. We're starting to see more books being produced for those in those languages. So that is a useful tool to, if you're looking for language specific. I'm going to close up catalogues by and just talk a little bit about Canadian distributor. This may be less relevant for you if you're ordering from a wholesaler, library wholesaler. So if you're going through your library wholesalers, this may be less relevant to you. But several, for example, cataloged by House of Anansi and several of the university presses are all represented by University of Toronto Press distribution. So if you're doing any direct ordering, this helps just to indicate which distributor would be supplying. So if that's something you do, that's the difference between who's cataloging it and who's supplying it. Content available, this is a very useful one for you in the libraries. This will tell you which titles have excerpts available to read, interior images, teacher's guides, all this supplemental content. So for example, if you want reading group guides, you can actually see here. I'm going to click through. At the Mountain's Edge by Genevieve Graham. So I can read the excerpt here. There's an excerpt that I can read. I can also pull down the reading group guide. So using that reading group guide tool would let you look up topical information, books about certain topics using your keyword search, and then limiting down to titles where there's reading group guides available. So if you are looking for books that are to suggest to your reading groups, this is something that you can use to support your reading groups that may be looking for new content. These are downloadable, so you can download or print them directly from here, and the same with the teacher's guides. So when I go back, my search is remembered with all of my content filters applied. So let's just go over to the teacher's guides here. And so here I've got Sun Dog. It's the same thing here. I can look at the teacher's guide. So in this case, they've actually given us like a fully formatted PDF. It's a very nice one. And so those are available again to print or download as needed. I'm going to clear all my filters here, and I'm going to look at forthcoming titles for a moment. And I'm going to look at the Simon & Schuster ones, because I know Simon & Schuster is participating in the Advanced Readers program. So if I'm looking at forthcoming titles, some of the publishers have turned on the availability for librarians and retailers and other buyer type accounts to request advanced reading copies. So they're not, of course, required to provide them, but that option does exist. If you see the advanced reading, the request an ARC button, you can actually, it'll tell you that you're requesting Sky Song by Abby Elphinstone and which publisher your request is going to. Now, this user that test user I'm logged in at has not entered any of this information before. Once you add your mailing address and so forth, the system will remember it for you for in future. If you want digital, if you're just looking for digital copies, and right now a lot of ARCs are going more digital, you aren't required to, of course, enter your mailing address. Job title is actually required, so that gives the marketing people at the publishers an indication of if you're doing circulation, if you're doing collections, sort of what your role is in a library. And we really do recommend that you put some additional information in there about why they should send you that ARC. Most publishers have been pretty good about sharing their advanced reading copies with librarians, so long as they know that what it is that you're doing. And then when you send requests, it's going to kick out an email that you'll get a copy of, and the contact at Simon & Schuster will get a copy of with the details of your request. And that's basically how that works, so it's pretty straightforward. It's not showing on this title, but we also have a direct link to NetGalley. So if NetGalley has a listing available, you can actually just click through on the available, request at NetGalley button that will display here, and that just kicks you over directly to NetGalley, where you can sign into your account and request those titles. Recommend for Lone Stars. So this is a program that is run by the Canadian Urban Library Council in conjunction with BookNet Canada, and there's a steering committee of librarians who kind of guide how this program goes. But it is a monthly program where librarians can recommend titles that they've either read an ARC or read an excerpt. This one doesn't have an excerpt, but some of the other ones that we were looking at did. And you can actually say you're recommending this title as a Lone Stars pick. If I click Save and Close, it'll just say thanks for voting. So there's a children's list that is bi-monthly, so January, February, March, and April. And there is an adult list that runs monthly. And those are just tallied from these recommendations from librarians. So we are more than happy to have your recommendations for titles you think should be in Canadian libraries. I'm going to cancel that because I don't want to log this as a vote right now. But that gives you a bit of a sense there. I'm just going to go back to the homepage for a moment because I will point out NetGalley for digital copies. We catalog what's available. So if you click through on that, we have some catalogs that let you just look at juvenile fiction. So thrillers and mystery, comic and graphic novel. So you can just click on those catalogs to just browse through. So here's our nonfiction titles for forthcoming. So you can actually just see here's the button for request an ARC from the publisher, request it at NetGalley. You can recommend for the Lone Stars program. I'm just looking at the second title here, Sway, which has the request at NetGalley. It does not have the ARC request, so this publisher is not participating in the ARC request program in CataList. And it does not have a recommend button, even though it is a forthcoming title. So the June, we're in May now, so the June dates have already completed. So you're voting, in May, you're voting for July and forward. July releases and forward. So going back to our homepage, if I look at the library Lone Stars, so here's where I can find more about the program, looking at the Lone Stars list, and you can actually browse the forthcoming titles. You can browse. This is our most recent list, so March and April. The May list is actually up, so for titles releasing in May, we have our top picks catalog is already there, so it's top 10 items voted on by Canadian libraries. You can see we have our Canadian authors are well represented in this list. To go back to that page, if I look down at the monthly catalogs, you can see the forthcoming Canadian fiction. You can browse forthcoming Canadian nonfiction. So that just gives you a way of looking at some of those, an easy place to just go and look at all of the Canadian authors on the Lone Stars page. Kind of a quick and easy way to get that information rather than going through search. So I did want to show one thing, and maybe we'll look at the March list. So we have the MARC list here, and I did just want to, so as you can see below, the advanced reading copies, because these are titles in the past. If there's a NetGalley available, we will still show the NetGalley button, but advanced reading copies are only for titles, obviously advanced, that are forthcoming. So once they have hit a pub date, the ability to request advanced reading copies goes away. However, if a publisher's loaded excerpts, you will still be able to see those in the detail. The ability to vote for Lone Stars, and we already discussed, is a future on future titles as well. If you want to make lists of titles for your own reference, you actually have the ability to add to catalog. So you can see it as a button on the catalog page. You can see it available as a button on the scrolling view page, and also in search. So let me just look for let's see if I spell it right. So I've got, actually, and it's probably in without the U in neighbor, the one that we were just looking at. But if I have titles that are in search, I can add them to catalog individually. I can add them to catalog from the top. So if I create a new catalog, and basically a catalog is just a list of ISBNs, my titles, whatever it is, if you wanted to create that, it will add 2 titles to the catalog. So where do you find your catalogs that you've created? You're going to actually find them in the list on my page. So by default, the first thing you'll see is received catalogs. So in some cases for libraries, publisher reps are creating customized catalogs that they're sharing to specific acquisitions or collection development people. So you may see that there are received catalogs where, if that's the type of work that you're doing, you have relationships with publishers. Otherwise, you can switch over to the tab which has your own custom catalogs. And so you can build as many as you want. You can create new ones. You can use that add to catalog to choose an existing title to send to. And you can just go and view those titles. All of these catalogs, publisher catalogs, any ones that you create, you can export to a PDF. There is a separate, you can create your own customized templates for those exports. So if you're, for example, my local library has a program where they put together a PDF that lists all of the titles that they like for people to sponsor. People in the community can come in, browse that list, and choose to sponsor a title. So they'll order it, and the people in the community can provide a donation. And so this is something where you could put together a list of your titles that you would like to have in your library that you think patrons might choose to sponsor, and you can just export that as in whatever PDF format you want. So no effort for you other than just building the list and then pulling the export. You can use one of our standard views, 1 per page, 5 on a page, or a tile version that looks very much like this thumbnail view we're looking at in the catalog. I think the default there is 12, so 3 across and 4 rows. So that gives you can choose all of the information that you want in or out. It's pretty simple to use. There is if you want to customize them, there's a whole other set of tutorials that will take you through all of the steps of customizing PDFs. The other option that you have on any publisher titles, for example, Lone Stars catalogs, you can also export to an Excel file, a CSV, or a MARC Biblio. The MARC Biblio, I will just say, is really pretty basic. CataList does support ordering functionality. If that's something you're interested in, again, it's like more of an advanced feature, and we'd be happy to talk to you about how to place orders and export them out to your ILS systems. So let us know if you're interested in doing that. But the MARC Biblio is really to supports a basic stub record, just enough to be able to create an order. So you can actually pull that for any of your custom catalogs. As you can see, it's quite short, only a few items. The type code, so one of these DG is digital product, the ISBN, price, the first author, the title, the publisher, the year of publication. That's basically all that you are getting in this version. We do have a standalone or a side project which provides it's the source for bibliographic data for CataList called BiblioShare, which does have a service to create more complete MARC 21 records. So that if you're interested in that, you can get in touch with us and we can give you more information on that as well. The other thing that you can do on my page, and I will call this one out today. Oh, here's our MARC download in the actual MARC format, is in the alerts and updates. So right now, we have a lot of publication dates moving. If price changes are really relevant for you to follow for budgetary reasons, you can actually set up some change notifications in CataList. So when we get a change on a pub date or a price, you can actually get that information. So, but it is something that you do need to set up so you can manage those alerts. So when I click on Manage Alerts, it's actually going to take me into my settings page where I can say I can set my email settings. We do a lot of feature development in CataList. If you want to keep up with the new features that are available, you can sign up for our monthly newsletter. We do actually only about 9 a year, so we try to be really respectful of the time and what we send to make sure it's relevant. But you can get emails about those data changes once a week, Monday morning at 7 a.m. if you want to get data changes, and you can set up what you want to be alerted about. If you want to be alerted about drop-in titles. And really those alerts are just that. You'll see the marker for based on what you're signing up for here. So I'm just going to put in list price, publication date, drop-ins. And I actually need the system to send me a weekly summary of those. But that is absolutely available, so you can set that up, and then you don't need to log into CataList. You'll just get an emailed report with the details. So now I've set that up. When I go to my page, I can see that there are 2 drop-ins that have been added this week, and I can see there's no new change notifications since I logged in, since I set this up. So, but I can view the history. And so when I look at the history for publication date and list price, drop-ins is another report, the system will actually pull back the date of the change, the title that's changed as the publisher, and what the field is, the previous and the current. We're actually in the process right now, so likely next week we'll have some improvements that are on this report that will actually do a calculation to show you that the change here is $4, is an increase of $4.95, and that'll be a sortable field, so you can actually just see what are the big price changes, because I don't need to know if it went from $24.99 to $24.95, because that 4-cent difference is really not important to me. But it will also tell you pub date changes. So is something moving ahead a week? Is it moving back by more than a year? That type of thing. So in this report, we're actually going to add a download option, so you can take that out of the system and do some Excel magic in it. So that's coming next week. If you're signed up for our monthly newsletter, you will get a notification about what we've added and how that new feature works. So you'll be able to see as new changes are processed in the system, you'll be able to see that you have new changes that you haven't seen. And you can mark those as read or unread. So this gives you sort of a real quick and easy way to identify what's happening in the market right now with all of these moving pub dates. And that's pretty much the tour of CataList that we wanted to show you today. If there's things that you're specifically looking to list that you're hoping you can find, we'd be really happy to help you out. Feel free to get in touch with us. I'm just going to switch over to our thank you slide. And this has catalyst@booknetcanada.ca. That is our team address. We're happy to hear from you guys about anything that you need, any questions that you have. We definitely, are interested in supporting the library market and trying to, but what we need is the information about what things CataList. So please do get in touch with us with any questions, comments, and feature requests. Thanks for your time today. I hope this was helpful, and happy book reading, happy sharing, happy voting on Lone Stars. Thanks very much.